Welcome back. This week we're talking about episode 7 of Siberia. While I was preparing for this week's video, I went back and watched the first 6 episodes because I was curious about how much real time had passed since the show began. Unfortunately, there's no one pulling pages off a calendar, so I had to tally the days by keeping an eye on establishing shots and listening to dialogue. I've worked out this nice little timeline that covers the first handful of episodes. Right off, you'll probably notice that each episode covers roughly 1 to 2 days. This of course means that the contestants have only been on location for about a week and a half by the end of episode 7. I think it's important to keep that fact in mind when you start to evaluate the behavior of the characters in the show. It was barely day 2 when Johnny cut the tip of his finger off, which explains why he was so adamant about refusing to call for help. What's troubling though is the random nature of the revealer. We learned last week that it's run on a clockwork timer, but the times when it opens are anything but regular. Between the revealer opening for the 4th and 5th time, a full 3 days pass. Compare that to the matter of hours that passed between its 2nd and 3rd times on day 2. It's probably the producer's fault. I hear those older revealer models start acting up if you don't wind them regularly. So, without further interruption, let's start the review. Quick episode recap. Johnny found the helicopter.
What is it?
It's our helicopter.
Oh my god.
The contestants woke up to a winter wonderland.
That's not possible. It was boiling hot yesterday.
Miljan made an indecent proposal.
She can die slowly here like a dog, or we can help her out.
Sabina played Santa Claus and performed a Hanukkah miracle.
Food, clothes, supplies, a bunch of stuff.
Sam took an unexpected dive.
Sam!
Miljan got wrapped up in his madness.
Now be a good girl. Come over and let me go.
Esther and Nico opened the revealer.
It's open.
Wow.
Johnny and Joyce found a nice place to get warm.
Hey, you gotta wake up, dude. We got shelter.
I can't wake up.
Hey.
Esther put something in the vodka.
Just for tonight, I just want us just to relax, enjoy the moment.
And in the morning, Irene was gone.
She's not here. Look.
Wow, I'm glad we got that shot of the crater last week. It was really crucial to this episode. And by crucial, I mean it was barely mentioned. I'm sure the writers included the Fellowship finding the crater in order to emphasize that they were still in Siberia, and more specifically near the site of the Tunguska event. Unfortunately, since 1908, the Tunguska crater has mostly grown over. The blast covered an area larger than Washington, D.C., and it flattened every tree in its radius. We know this because we have photographs of the devastation. But over 100 years later, the actual Tunguska crater looks more green than the one they showed in the television show. Sam proposed that the crater had something to do with the sky turning green, which Daniel saw as a possibility. Debris flying up from an explosion could refract the light like water when it makes a rainbow. Joyce asked if it could have been a nuclear explosion, but that's out of the question.
How are you so sure?
We'd all be dead.
I'm not sure if the crater will factor into future episodes, but I'll keep it on the shelf in case it needs referencing. After the in-depth and revealing 3 or 4 lines of dialogue about the gigantic crater, Johnny found the burned-out wreckage of the Siberia helicopter. This is what they should have ended on last week. I would have much preferred a cliffhanger of the still-burning wreckage to the ending we got. Anyway, the wreck proves to be void of answers. There are no bodies and no clear signs of what brought the chopper down. Daniel even said that it looked like it just exploded in midair. One thing's for sure, they're not getting out by helicopter. Joyce found a clipboard with Jonathan's name on it and assumed that he died in the crash, but I'm not so sure of that. The absence of bodies has me suspicious. Jonathan may be a periphery character, but he's the closest we have to a face for the producers, and while I know that any character could die in this show, I'm not certain that they would kill him off screen. My guess is that Jonathan was not on the helicopter and that he was taken captive during the raid on the producer base camp. Even so, there was no way for Joyce to know any of this, so she assumed the worst. The reaction that we got from Joyce as she held Jonathan's clipboard gave me the suspicion that they were rather close, which makes sense, as they were probably the first 2 people brought onto the production. Now, when I was watching, I had a moment when reality started creeping into the fantasy. Joyce drew out as an executive producer on the show. Whenever you see Joyce de Ohoven, that's her. And her husband, Michael Ohoven, is the founder and CEO of Infinity Media, the company that produced and owns Siberia. Anyway, when Joyce started bawling, I thought for a moment that they were going to have her mourning her husband. But after the reveal of the name on the clipboard, I had to take a step back and remind myself that the Joyce in the show is not Joyce in real life. The show is tricky like that, and you have to be on your toes sometimes to make sure you remember that even though the actors are using their real names, the people they portray are characters in a story. The morning of day 10 proved to be the coldest so far as the contestants awoke to a few feet of snow on the ground. When they previewed this last week, it struck me as odd that winter would come on so suddenly and with such ferocity, especially considering that only 7 days previous to this, everyone was skinny dipping and having a grand old time. Part of me wants to attribute the heavy snowfall to the time fluctuation theory that I proposed in my episode 5 review, but being from New England, I know all too well how quickly you can go from no snow on the ground to school cancellations and snowplows. Irene has not improved since last week. She's been well tended by Annie, but there's not much hope for recovery without medicine. Knowing there's no help for modern science, Irene asked Annie to pray for her. Looking at Annie, I wasn't surprised to learn that she is a disenfranchised Catholic. As I said before, I'm from New England, and there are enough former Catholics running around here that you start to get a sense for these things. I found this an interesting storyline for Annie and Irene, and a good chance to get some exposition on how they each view their situation. Irene is the faithful, and Annie the faithless. I would have liked to see this story show up last week, so we get more time to follow Annie as she begins to better understand and appreciate Irene's faith in God. But sadly, that possibility is taken from us, quite literally. I guess I can understand the writers not wanting to get too heavy-handed with a religious topic, but if they played it right and let their actors act with the sincerity we've seen so far in the series, it would have been really good. Thanks for taking that away from me, Miljan. I'll get to you later. Sabina had a revelation this episode and opened her personal storehouse to share with the group. I was questioning Sabina's intentions in the past, but now that she's no longer hoarding food in her cave, I'm much more inclined to believe that she wants to help everyone else survive. She's certainly making better decisions as she leads the group to the producer's base camp and they proceed to take everything useful. Gee, I wonder where she got that idea. Sabina got a lot more screen time this week, and I really like how she's emerging as a dominant force in the camp. I still think she needs to work on communicating with the others and getting everyone to cooperate, but even now, she's doing a lot better job than Nico. Lately, Nico's been letting his fists do the talking, and I'm a little worried of what might happen the one time that Nico doesn't have someone to hold him back or pull him off. Nico may have started out as the leader in episode 1, but now he's become more of a brute. As long as Sabina is there to rein in his temper, things should be fine. Even so, I like that Sabina has filled the role of leader at the cabins, because I think the others would be lost without her. Miljan. The more I watch Miljan, the more I'm inclined to say that he's completely out of his mind. He's lost his sympathy for human life.
I mean, when an animal is hurt and there's nothing you can do to help it, you know what to do.
She's not an animal.
That's not the point.
He's physically erratic.
Stupid! Yeah, look at you! Look at you! Yeah, run off! Yeah, go have a little temper tantrum.
Emotionally detached.
What's wrong with you, man? Huh?
You tried to strangle Irene. Listen,
No, I'm not lying, bitch. Huh?
Hearing voices.
I didn't do anything wrong. She was begging for mercy. I just tried to help.
And definitely homicidal.
Get off!
Get off!
What did you do? What did you do?
What are you doing?
Try to kill Irene!
Last week I mentioned that the locals Kulik interviewed in 1927 avoided the Valley of Death to avoid being cursed by Ogdi. Now it's plain to see what that curse does to someone. Even when he's tied up, Miljan has this air of malevolence about him, and as a viewer I can't believe that the others didn't see it sooner. At this point, I have to remind myself that they've only been at the camp for 10 days, and most of Miljan's creepiness has been happening away from the others. It's hard to say what Miljan has planned. By the end of the episode, he's gone, and he's presumably taken Irene with him after getting Esther to let him go. There's no clear reason why he would take Irene, and we have no idea why Esther would ever help him. There are so many unknowns that it's actually frightening. I'm scared because I don't know what Miljan is going to do next. The main storyline of Johnny, Joyce, Daniel, and Sam traveling to the beacon was hard to watch this week. As soon as they woke up to snow on the ground, you could tell that something bad was going to happen. It was rough seeing Sam struggle to keep up with the others, and the times when he fell were even worse. All of his stumbling through the drifts came to a head when they reached the river.
Oh, I wish I had a river.
I may not know everything, but I know a few things about proper weight distribution, and I'll say that the four of them crossed that ice all wrong. To minimize the amount of stress on a frozen surface, you're supposed to spread your weight over a larger area. I could suggest a myriad of ways that they should have crossed the river, but in the end, Sam rushed it and put his foot through the ice. Sam was a trooper for holding out as long as he did, but tough talk does no good after a tumble like the one he took. After Johnny and Joyce went ahead to find shelters, things got serious. I couldn't believe that they would let Sam die out in the open with only Daniel to watch over him, so you can imagine my relief when the others came back and got Sam next to a fire. The whole snowfield sequence was very suspenseful. A lot of the drama on Siberia comes from the fact that nobody is safe. There was literally no reason for Sam not to die out there in the snow, and that was not something I wanted to admit when I was watching. Sam couldn't die, but at the same time, there he was, fading in and out of consciousness. Like I said before, it was hard to watch, and unfortunately, we're not out of the woods yet. While her and the others were looting base camp, Esther found the key to open the revealer and used it to open their box. I thought they were clever to have the revealer sound the siren when the back is opened with the key. It was a good way to tell the viewer that the siren Nico and the others heard earlier wasn't a fluke, but just Esther being sneaky. What wasn't so clear was the item that Esther took from the revealer before everyone else went outside to investigate. The way the shot is edited together, from the moment the siren begins to the time the others round the corner to be inside of Esther and the revealer, is only about 20 seconds. Not nearly enough time in my book for Esther to open the revealer, take inventory of what's in there, grab whatever she's hiding, and then cover the hatch with snow again. Whatever she got, it was small enough to hide on her person, and damning enough for her to bend to Miljan's threats. Quick side note, I jumped on Wikipedia and found that Dostoevsky's The Idiot is regarded as one of the most brilliant literary achievements of the golden age of Russian literature, and not, as Nico interpreted it, a bad joke from the producers. I don't understand why Esther would ever help Miljan. She has no reason to believe him, and even less reason to trust him. This is the same guy who grabbed her by the throat and laughed it off afterwards. But apparently one threat of telling the others what she took from the revealers and she's his lapdog now? That's incredibly hard to believe. It's not just that she let him go, but she also drugged the others by putting sleeping pills in their drinks. First of all, you never mix sleeping pills and alcohol. That combination can kill you. And second of all, she didn't drug herself, so there's a real chance that she knows what Miljan was going to do. Esther has not spent 6 episodes being an alpha female to suddenly kowtow to a madman. Besides, who would actually believe Miljan over Esther? Is Esther under the delusion that Miljan's word holds more weight than her own? Sure, Esther has done some shady things, but you know what she hasn't done? Tried to kill Irene. I just don't understand why Esther did what she did, and I really hope Sabina is able to get some answers next week. On a side note, does Esther remind anyone of Cersei Lannister on Game of Thrones? Just me? Okay. And now it's time for the Tweet of the Week. This week's tweet comes straight from the show's official Twitter account, at NBC Siberia. It just says Snow Day, with a link to this picture on the show's Tumblr site. If you're on Tumblr or you just want to kill your entire afternoon, go to nbcsiberia.tumblr.com. I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, it's got a bunch of pictures, memes, links, videos, etc. Typical Tumblr fare to be sure, but worth the look because it's like Siberia for Tuesday through Sunday. I have mixed feelings about episode 7. On the one hand, it was a really good episode. The drama was thick and the pacing worked well. But at the same time, I didn't like it. I didn't have fun because I was too busy worrying about Sam or getting mad at Miljan. That's the thing about a drama. It's not meant to be fun and lighthearted. It's not supposed to make you laugh. A drama is about tapping into those emotions that each of us has. Fear, defiance, anger, joy, sadness, triumph. Siberia does that, and that's why it has the following that it does. I may not have liked this episode how I like ice cream, but this episode was good, like a hardcover novel in a wingback chair. The kid gloves are off and winter is here. Time to hunker down and make a strong push through the second half of the season. This video goes up on August 21st, 2013, and I wanted to take this opportunity to wish my wife a happy anniversary. It's been 4 years, 3 apartments, 2 junky dishwashers, and 1 amazing adventure all along the way. I wouldn't be doing these videos without her encouragement and support. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. As always, please comment below to keep the conversation going, subscribe to my channel for more of these weekly reviews of Siberia, and follow me on Twitter to see what I have to say during each episode. So until next week, I'm Rick D, and thanks for watching.